Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk 360, the podcast. This is Caitlin,
I'm Max.
and we talk about fitness, mental health, and just being in your 20s.
So this episode, being the first one that we're releasing, we wanted to make it short and just kind of basic and just give you a brief overview of who we are and what we want to talk about with you guys.
Yeah, so I guess when we first started talking about doing this podcast, Max and I, we were just kind of talking about our own experiences, and um, funny enough, we ran into each other after, or well, I was leaving therapy and Max was going into therapy. And so ever since then, we kind of just, figured we were two people that could talk about it together.
Yeah,
um,
and we were neighbors too. You guys
yeah,
live below me. Yeah, so we wanted to do this to talk about our own mental health experiences as well as it relates to athletics and fitness. And then, like Caitlin said, we both just recently graduated from college, and we're just kind of in this transitional period, uh, just being in our early 20s and being 20 something. Um, and we just thought that our perspective would be a cool thing to share.
yeah. And I would say it kind of seems a little random what we're calling it. I mean, like the fitness, mental health, and being in your 20s or some being whatever, something, 20 somethings. But I think it comes from how we are learning still, and we just want to be vulnerable about our experiences and open up because we know we're not the only ones struggling and making mistakes. And I think it's kind of a cool thing to, you know, talk about, talk about our own experiences. And
Yeah, I think as Caitlin and I have talked outside of recording a podcast, I think it's pretty apparent that mental health and going through some sort of process of therapy or kind of dealing with the things that we've been diagnosed with or other things happening in our lives on the mental health side is kind of a pretty important part of our lives that has kind of led to what like our identities are now, the people who we are now, at least for me. But then Caitlin being a collegiate athlete, and then me being really into fitness and weightlifting, they're just things that really play big roles in our lives. And so we just kind of thought that this is a like a specific thing that we could focus on, as well as give like general insight and perspective on life at this age.
yeah, yeah, I think we're both in a really cool spot right now. We're both learning. We're going through the NASM program, so that's what that is a personal training certification. And we're both training to be personal trainers and work in the fitness industry. I also am working on my master's for a sports performance psychology program. So just having like, different experiences with both of us in fitness and having our own mental health struggles and also being super um, passionate about helping others. I think this podcast was, something fun that we wanted to do. And yeah, I'm excited for you guys to start listening to what we have to say because, you know,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
it was kind of random when we started talking about this because I think you had texted me shortly after graduation about it was either like some training stuff or exercise stuff, or it was like a nutritional thing. Because I've been doing personal training the past few summers, and I'm actually starting like part time at the gym again tomorrow. But I've been doing personal training for about 2 years now. But yeah, you would text me about that, and then I think we just got to like talking, and we brought up something about like you wanted to do podcasts. Like I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't know like I was going to do it by myself,
Right.
and I didn't really know who I wanted to do it. And we're just kind of like, fuck it, let's like try to make it happen. So I mean, this is August now, but we've been talking about this since May,
Yeah.
like May or June. But yeah, so we're here now.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about? Oh yeah, go ahead.
That was something that I was really struggling with for a while because I had been thinking about doing a podcast since maybe junior year in college,
Mhm.
but I just didn't know how to start it, where to start it, what to do for it, and I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough to do it, or like I was overthinking it and overanalyzing everything. But I don't know, the moment that I guess it does really help having someone to talk to, and like have a conversation during the podcast, but also working with someone and having someone lift you up too, and um, someone else that believes in you. I think it helps you believe in yourself too. And now, also with the experiences that I've gone through, I think I've learned to have more confidence in myself. And I mean, it's kind of like fuck what other people think or what they say. Like,
Exactly.
if you don't want to listen, you don't have to.
Yeah.
But it's about us, our experiences, and if people vibe with us, and that's awesome. Keep listening.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree. So, do we want to talk about kind of like our goals for each episode?
Yeah, we are going to do episodes on different topics so we can be truthful and vulnerable, because there's definitely something to be said about people our age being vulnerable with each other when we're all going through very different but very similar experiences of just being lonely and all the changes and all the unknown.
I think Caitlin and I had kind of talked about, like, when we were talking about like fitness or training or whatever, like when we first kind of started about this podcast being a thing. Um, I at least like the first few times that we like were on a call with each other, I think we had different conversations about just like how our mental health kind of related to fitness and sports and athletics. But then we also talked about like body image and social media and how that plays roles in our lives. And then like that led to conversations like gender and like how we perceive ourselves. And I think we just kind of discovered we had a lot to talk through. So we're just going
Yeah.
to try to kind of break down certain episodes and different specific subjects, kind of all revolving around mental health and fitness and just like growing up, being an adult or whatever that we're supposed to be now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think not that what we've been through is abnormal, but we have been very dedicated to therapy and working through how to process and live with the experiences that we have. And I think through those experiences, we have things to share. And I know that they're not things that um, like people have definitely experienced similar things. So I think the more we talk about it, the more mental health is talked about. It makes it easier for other people. It makes it a cooler environment, honestly.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And I think the other thing that Kayla and I talked about a few times too is like we're not, the whole point is that we're not professionals, but it's something that we're really passionate about. And we want to be able to provide, research, like academic research, other information, and just kind of be vulnerable with people like us and our peer groups and a bunch of different subjects. And that, like, these are just all things like we've been very, I think we've both in our own personal lives have been very dedicated to these subjects like therapy and working through our experiences and the things that we've lived through and gone through, and just like working on ourselves. So I think this is important to us, and it's something that we feel like it's good to share because we've done so much like work ourselves, and I think we just provide interesting perspective,
Yeah.
and we're gonna like work hard on providing that perspective too.
Yeah.
I feel like mental health has been a really big part of my life. I think a lot of the difficult things that I've gone through, or the bad things that I've had to deal with or learn to cope with, or situations I've had to resolve, or times when I've been like hurt or been going through something where I've had to heal, or I think those have all made me into a better person, or at least like the person that I like being now. So I think for a long time, I felt like it was hard to be me, or I didn't like who I was. So I think I'm a better person. I think I'm more emotionally aware. I'm more directed. I'm certainly more vulnerable and comfortable being vulnerable. And I think all of these things, like mentally and emotionally, that I've gone through, have made me more compassionate and more empathetic. And just this is a thought that I recently have had was I think at some point I thought of my mental health situation as something that was happening to me, where like it is like on a certain level, like by like brain chemistry or something. It is something that's happening to you. But I think where I've really changed a lot in the past few years is that it's just something that I've become dedicated to solving and working through. It's something I'm passionate about. I feel like to a very high degree, what I've been through, like what I've been through with my mental health and what I do to work through it has become a big part of my identity as a person.
Yeah, yeah. I think similarly, like the things that have happened to me, and right, like you were saying, they haven't necessarily. How do I say this? I used to think too that things have happened to me, and the things that I have experienced with my collegiate lacrosse career and just being a teenage girl or being in college, I used to think those things were negative and that they're not punishing me, but something that I wish never happened to me. And I think that's fair to say, like, why should bad things happen to good people? And
Hmm.
like, there's that saying, everything happens for a reason, but you can argue, but there shouldn't be a reason for all this like negativity and toxicity in the world. But having those experiences, I've learned to be somewhat thankful for them. And
Hmm.
without my experiences, I never would have brought Morgan's Message to Wofford, and I wouldn't have been so passionate about mental health and fitness and my overall wellness.
Yeah.
Like the traumas, the anxiety, the depression, they've all taught me resilience and courage. And
Yeah.
even doing this, like if my freshman year self, like the college self, could see me doing this today, starting a podcast, I think she would have had a panic attack, thinking about talking to so many people and wondering if she's good enough and what people will think. And like to some degree, I still think about what people will think, but
Hmm.
I think without those experiences, I wouldn't be the confident person I am today, and I wouldn't have known the power I do have in being vulnerable and how, like, that power is so much more than what I think other people are going to think about me. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And I think I've found acceptance and things not always being okay.
Yeah. Me too. I think it's like, oh, fuck, what was I gonna say? Like, I don't know, shit is always gonna happen. Like, life's just gonna kind of keep moving on, and like, it's kind of how time works. Like, life happens. It's just like kind of how like we respond to it and deal with it. And considering all that and like how my life's gone, I'm at a point in my life where like I'm cool with like who I am, and like Kayla and I were talking about this like 30 minutes ago. It was like, you know what? Like, fuck it. If someone says no, or if like something that you didn't want to happen happens, or like whatever, or like it's something that could be embarrassing, like just, you know what, who fucking cares? Like, we're just gonna, you put yourself out there, or you tried, or whatever, and you're just gonna move on, and you're just gonna be
Yeah.
like, you're just gonna learn from it, and just like it's this life. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think sidebar, this is your sign. This is your sign to do it, to just do it. Just go for it.
Just do it.
Because me and Max both have just gone for it and it's worked out in our favor. So there you go.
My homie texted me today. He said, this was good. This was good. This is about the thing that we were talking about earlier, with myself. But I said something about being anxious, and he said, if you ain't anxious about life decisions, you ain't living. And I said, you know what? You're right. Like, so life can be scary sometimes, and like big things, big changes. But like, you know, it's like if there's not some kind of nervousness or whatever, like you're not living. Just put yourself out there. Just go for it.
Yeah. I mean, there was this one thing that I read and it was about pain and suffering and being uncomfortable and the difference and yeah, like if you're in pain, all right, take a step back. But
Yeah,
the discomfort that you feel, the uncomfortability, like that's you should feel that or else you're not
yeah,
really challenging yourself to
yeah,
grow and to live in a life that or live a life that you're proud of.
yeah.
Like
That's something I totally subscribe to, because it's like that's kind of like the bodybuilding mindset of like why we compete and like do the sport, where it's like it's not supposed to be easy. Like training is physically painful, losing weight and dieting is physically and emotionally painful and draining. But it's like constantly putting yourself under pressure and being uncomfortable, um, and then just adapting, and it's just challenging yourself to be like the best version that you can be.
yeah.
um, and so I think that's something that I've kind of like taken into, tried to more and more take into like my own life, outside of just being like a bodybuilder or like going to the gym. So
Yeah. Like recently I decided just randomly, really, that I wanted to move, and I found a job. Well, I it wasn't that easy. I was looking for a while, but um,
Yeah, hype yourself up, man. Caitlin got a job. Can we say
yeah.
that? Or I can bleep that if we can't say that. I'll just bleep it.
No, no, no. I don't
Can
know.
bleep it. But it's
um,
big time, and we're proud of her. So
yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. I'm pushing myself. I'm I knew for I knew even coming back after graduation, like I didn't want to come back home because I didn't want to just stay at the point at which I'm at. Like I want to
mhm.
push myself to grow, and I know that in this environment I've already kind of like I've done as much as I could. And in a new environment where I'm meeting new people, I'm putting myself out there, I'm finding new communities to be involved in. I think it's going to be, I don't know, it's definitely uncomfortable. I'm definitely scared, but it's the only way I'm going to really keep living and live the life that I really want. So,
Yeah, it's a step towards
it is a
something.
step.
So that's cool. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Do you wanna? Should we talk about kind of like we touched a little bit on some of it, but do you wanna? Should we kind of talk about like background stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Do you want to start?
I can. Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Cool. So again, we're mental health, fitness, and 20 somethings. So just kind of my background in that whole realm is that I do happen to be 20 something. But at one point in my life, especially in high school, um, I think sports were really like the only thing that I could identify myself with. I played some sport. I was playing sports year round, so whatever it was. But I played like everything. But I was mainly a soccer player, and that was really what was important to me in high school. And I think at the point that soccer felt the most important, and meant the most to me, and just kind of like I think my whole life was soccer. I think at that point was probably maybe the worst I've ever felt. And again, like that's like I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And so there's just a lot going on with that. But also at that time, suicidal, self harm, like probably the most intense depression I've ever been in, pretty severe anxiety, and then kind of starting with like medication or lots of different medications, and then just other life shit, like I don't know, being in high school and kind of like dating for the first time in relationships and whatever. And like that's weird when you're that age and doing those things. I don't know. It's like it sucked. But then leaving high school, I wasn't an athlete anymore. I didn't play soccer, and so that transition period was kind of like an identity crisis thing, and that was really hard to deal with. But that's kind of how I got into the gym, like really dedicated to the gym. So that was a really good healthy habit that I developed, like and like really good like identity thing that I had developed. But also like that transition wasn't always healthy. I don't think um, I don't think anything I did was necessarily abnormal to like, the average like fraternity college person. But I mean, like self control issues with substances. And so, like, I didn't have a drinking problem. I just like had a lot of fun sometimes and would lack self control at points.
Just sometimes.
But I developed a lot of unhealthy habits, uh, but that I've worked through. But again, that like going to the gym was a really healthy one. And that's really kind of directed my goals, where it's like the partying and the drinking kind of doesn't really exist if I want to do what I want to do in the gym. And so what I was talking about earlier was like the bodybuilding thing is just kind of like the self-imposed like suffering and like challenge, but it's like seeking self-improvement and just kind of being like the best version that I can be physically. But going through that was also really emotional and like spiritual kind of weird thing. So it's like mentally and emotionally really good for me too. And then academically, my senior capstone was focused on bodybuilding and masculinity and gender sexuality. So that gives me some kind of like academic research background on some of the things we'll talk about. So,
Yeah, yeah. So I played lacrosse since I was 8 probably. So my whole life felt like my whole life was wrapped into this one identity of being a lacrosse player. When I went to college and I realized, no, I wasn't the best player. Like, you know how like collegiate athletes will get picked out because they're the best on the team or like in high school or in club, but as a collegiate athlete, like you're surrounded by a bunch of other athletes that are better, well not better, but
It's like
are
they were all the best at their high school kind of thing.
right,
It's like,
right, right. When I got to college, I just felt like I had that a similar identity crisis. Like I questioned if I was good enough and if I was meant to be there with those girls that were really good, and I wasn't giving myself enough credit because like again, I was just scared and um I was surrounded by people that had a lot of skill and a lot of talent that I hadn't been surrounded by before, and I had gotten injured pretty much the beginning of my freshman year, and that didn't help with the identity crisis either because now that I'm away from home and I'm already having issues with like trying to kind of cope with the idea that I'm not the best athlete out there. Like that is a
mhm.
very hometown dream.
Yeah.
um and like then not being able to play at all. It took me a while to understand that lacrosse isn't who I am and doesn't make me who I am. And that experience with tearing my hip labrum and going through surgeries, the concussions, the different traumas in college, I think like all of that drew me closer to mental health because I started to understand and empathize with not only myself, but learning how to empathize with other people too, and how our experiences can be not detrimental, but definitely, what's the word? Yes. After going through the experiences that I had with surgery and with mental health stuff and traumas and concussions and stuff like all of those experiences combined, it was a lot, but it did show me how um,
It can be really easy for those things to like really like hurt you or like be one of those situations where it's like all this shit has happened to me. Like you could totally turn like that could easily really be like a negative.
yeah, yeah,
And I feel like I don't know, at least what we're trying to do like on this platform is kind of show how those things can not that they're like positives, but that like it doesn't have to be like a thing that happened to you. And like
right,
that doesn't like bring you down all the time. Because it's so you could like, I don't know, give up and just be like, fuck it, like all this shit happened to me, like I'm done with whatever.
right. But it it does show you how courageous you can be and how strong you can be as a person, like going through different things like that, and just honestly being in college, like you're thrown into the wild, like you're not really
A lot of stuff goes
prepared.
on. No, I was
I was
not
not
at all.
not prepared, and it kind of feels like that right now. Like I don't know if I'm necessarily prepared for the real world, but it's just like kind of we're thrown in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, I got to pay taxes for real now. And like, my dad's not paying my car insurance anymore. Oh, fuck. Like, I got to pay that.
Yeah, budgeting. I
Yeah,
need help with that.
me too.
Um,
So I got to stop drinking. I'm joking. Well, I'm not joking, but damn, I don't have that bad of a problem.
um, so I guess like with all of our experiences with this podcast, we really want to encourage that it's okay not to be okay. You're not going to be okay 100% of the time, but it's also okay to reach out for help and know that you have people, you have support around you that, um, are there's people that care about you and want to help. And sometimes we're taught that that's not cool, it's not okay to do because you're supposed to be strong, but I think
Yeah.
reaching out for help is really strong and being
Especially
vulnerable is
like,
strong.
yeah. especially at this age too, where it's kind of like the I think like a lot of people that we would talk to, like in our graduating class or whatever, like just graduating college, like you're an adult now,
Mhm.
like you got to grow up. But it's like
Like,
this
huh?
is probably even like it's like what, and this is probably even like the craziest point. So it's like, bro, like this is the time. It's like you don't know anything. Like I don't know anything. Like this is when I need help. So it's like it's totally okay to be like not great or like need help or whatever. And like
Yeah.
shit happens to everybody. Like we're all going through it, but like just like keep your head up, keep trying, and like we're all going through it together. Like that's why Caitlin and I are doing this. And then kind of going off of that was that like what we've gone through and what a lot of people are going through isn't necessarily abnormal, but a lot of people are struggling with a lot of different things, whether it's just like life stuff or mental health. And I think Caitlin and I would agree that we've both been through a lot. And
Yeah.
again, not that's necessarily abnormal, but I think we've both been through some pretty weird things, some extreme, some more normalized or whatever.
Traumatic.
And yeah, definitely traumatic. But we've been both very dedicated to working on our own mental health and our own improvement. It's just something that we're really passionate about, and we want to be able to communicate those kind of things with people our age and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Like, I think
and
it's
also be
important.
educational.
Yeah. Like, I think it's important, like, to kind of share what we've learned and provide information, research, and just continue to show our or share our own perspective on mental health and fitness and, um, even our fun, silly, quirky experiences, you know?
We've done cool things. We've done cool stuff.
So yeah, I guess this is kind of a very overview kind of podcast episode. We just wanted to tell you guys what we're all about. And I think we're gonna try to do something at the end of every episode, and I think we're gonna maybe do something like share something vulnerable about ourselves or something that we've learned because we're always learning. So um, I don't know. I think vulnerability is beautiful and courageous, and we want to keep reminding you guys that that's true and possible. So we're gonna we're gonna do that. Yeah. So Max, if you
Sweet.
want to go first.
Okay. So this is the letter that my best friend wrote me that he gave to me on a day of graduation, and he's been my best friend since like the very beginning of college, and we've been through a lot together. And I share with everything with him, and he's just like for 23 years old is incredibly wise. But we've lived together, we have a dog together, and he's just like I love him like so much, and he's my best friend. But he wrote me this letter, and I just think one, it's vulnerable, and two, I think he gives really good advice, not just to me. I think it's good for kind of anybody, especially like in this stage of life. So, um, I love you, Bill Clark. So he said, "Dear Max, honestly, I don't even like writing this letter. It feels fake that I won't see you weekly anymore, or get Mad Dog videos on the weekends to cheer me up through my hangover." Over the past 4 years, you very quickly became my best friend, and I'm not sure what I'll do without you. I'm scared and I'm upset. However, more than anything, I'm excited, and I'm excited for the world to meet you. You're fun, smart, and kind. You're gonna take America by storm. I certainly did with a lot of hot dogs last week. Um,
Oh yeah, you gotta
I
do
just hope, yeah, I just hope that you always remember to make time for yourself and remember how loved you are. Trust yourself a bit more too. You've got a good heart and a sound mind, and you aren't crazy, so give yourself some credit. Finally, don't forget that there's a fat stoned redneck in Crocs and no underwear somewhere, and he loves you. So,
that.
he did a lot better than last time. The first time I read this to Caitlin, I actually like sobbed. Like I, I like cried really hard. So I
It
was
was
going
making
through
me
it,
emotional
and
though.
I think I was drunk. But yeah,
Hey, fair, things
I'm
happen.
in a really
You get
good mood
emotional.
today. So I'm gonna. Last time I read it, I was not in a great mood. So
I really liked that.
thank you.
I think he does give.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. He does give very great advice.
My therapist would say that a lot. She's like, he's good. I'm like, I know.
um, so something I've learned this week, I saw a post and on Instagram and it said, "Life is a mirror. It changes when you change." And I thought that was really cool. I needed to hear it because lately I've been really upset and overwhelmed and stressed and I'm really scared about moving and moving away from home and having to kind of, throw myself into the deep end and make new friends and everything. But when when I saw that, I realized like it is stressful, but I can reframe it because it's also a really exciting period of time. And
Yeah.
if I look at it in a different way and I look at it in a more positive way, honestly, like this is a really exciting opportunity. I'm gonna have great experiences and all these things. Like once I think about it in a lighter way, my life is gonna feel that way. And I've seen that sometimes in my life. Like I
Yeah,
when I
perspective is
journal,
powerful.
it
Yeah.
is. Like especially I journal every night and I'll write affirmations and I've been writing like I am strong, I am beautiful, I'm courageous, I am willing, like things like that. And the more I write them, like the more I do believe them. And it's the
Hmm.
same thing with this. Like once you reframe the way your mind is set, and you know, or yeah, once you reframe how your mind sees things, then it really does change your life. So
Yeah. That like positive self talk is like really powerful. I mean, like I don't do this, but like you see people like go in the mirror, just like I love you, I love, or like something like that. But like I mean, like it's like I don't know. This is the most Jim Bro way of looking at it, but it was like I was at this supplement party thing and we were deadlifting, and one of the guys was like, "Don't ever think about the weight. Don't ever be scared of the weight because it's gonna crush you." So it's like just go up there and be like, "I got this." I'm like, "We got this. We got this. Like, we pick this up."
yeah,
Um, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's like I like that kind of like self belief or like whatever. I think is really powerful because it's like if it's the opposite of that, like you're totally gonna feel shitty. Like if you feel like shitty about yourself,
right,
you know, yeah, you got this. We're all beautiful and strong and great.
yeah.
Got this, mother. Let's go.
We
All right.
used to say this during sprints, but like you can do anything for X amount of times. Like let's say we had 10 sprints and we had 10 left or something. We'd say you can do anything 10 times, which is so
Yeah,
true. And it's like it's a better
it's
way of
just
thinking
10.
about things.
Yeah,
Right. You can
it's
do
just
it.
10. Yeah,
Easy.
yeah. It's only gonna hurt for a few minutes or something like that. So
Right.
yeah. I think our Zoom's about to end. Do we need to start a new one briefly? Are we good?
Yeah, probably just to say goodbye.
All right, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and end this one and then save it and then